Welcome to the Kawartha Small Business Podcast, where we believe the Kawarthas can be the most thriving region in Canada for small business. I'm Brian Rump from Profit Coach.
And I'm Matt Garrity of Managee Digital.
And before we get started, head over to kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca/checklist and download Matt and Brian's marketing checklist for Kawartha small businesses. All right, speaking of marketing, Matt, today our topic is cash flow and marketing and discussing a couple things, the relationship of those. And this question or this episode also answers the classic chicken and egg question of which comes first, cash flow or marketing in terms of doing marketing. I think, and I'll let you speak to it in a second. A lot of times people say, "Oh, I can't afford to do marketing right now." And so they don't do marketing because they're waiting for more cash to come in so that they can do marketing. And then some people are, just, I guess, don't have the cash. They're kind of waiting for something. So it's like, which comes first? Do you wait for cash to come in or do marketing and get cash, or do you have to start with some cash and then do marketing?
Are we going to actually answer that? You said we are going to answer this, and this would be a far cry from your typical, well, it depends.
I know it. I've thought about this a lot, and as much as the answer is it depends, I believe I have an answer. But let's hear what you have to think first before I give it away.
I, I'm not actually in the zone today. I'm not super sharp. I won't get too into it. I had like an all-time bad sleep, but I wish I was sharper for this conversation because I wonder if it will come across any better. But I do, of course, believe that you have to spend money to make money. And that usually comes in the way of marketing. You can't, I guess you could spend money on your products and hope that that makes you money, but you need to tell people that that product exists. I guess you need to spend money on HR and employees in some cases, but what are they going to do if no one's coming into the store or reaching out to them? I, do we have like a definitive pillars for what we believe business is? I think we've spoken about it and kind of joked about it, but the two things are always marketing and finances. I always start marketing my businesses like before they even exist in certain ways. So with Managee Digital, the first thing I did the day it launched was got all my social media stuff ready. And that was kind of basic, but I got it ready. I also started SEO stuff right away before it even launched. I've done that with Starting Point. I've done that with Thrive. Before the website is even live, I will sometimes start SEO, which sounds crazy, but I do it right away. And same with all the social stuff. And then I often think to myself, why am I doing this and nobody else is? Why does nobody else think that marketing is such a critical element to business, a new business, when it's being launched? And I don't know if I have a very articulate answer other than or non-pompous answer, because my answer is I know it works. I've seen it work. I do this. I understand it. Maybe that's where that comes from. Maybe other people don't understand marketing. There's a bajillion myths out there. People aren't familiar with it. They've only heard all the quote bad things of business owners that don't know anything about marketing, who've tried to do marketing, and then when it doesn't work, they of course are egomaniacs and they say that it was marketing's fault. I'm in it. I'm in it every day. My businesses are, I don't want to say famous. That's a stupid word for it. People know
So famous.
people know who I am though. I hear it often. I hear it from other people. I think the day I realized my marketing worked was about like 8 to 10 months into Managee Digital, when I started to get calls from people I had no idea who they were. And I'd say like, hey, where did you hear about me? And they'd be like, oh, I so and so down at the car dealership mentioned your name. Do you know them? And I'm like, no, I have no idea who that person is. And that to me was all marketing. I'm seeing it huge with Thrive right now. Those are all people that have, like, I've done tours for. I have no idea who they are. I don't know where they're finding me. I know where they're finding me, but there's no reason for them to know me or the marketing business or anything. Like, they're actively looking for office space or a place to work, and they're finding Thrive, and that's all just because of marketing. And I wouldn't be in the position that I am today if it weren't for doing marketing and doing marketing right away consistently, because I understand, like, it's not even really about an ROI to me. I just know that I have to do it. And am I spending what, a few $100s a month on marketing? And am I detailed enough in my own accounting and bookkeeping? I'm sure my accountant and bookkeeper is, but I don't know how much I'm spending in relation to how much I'm getting back from it specifically. I just know that it has to be done. It's like breathing for me with a business. It's just, you don't even have a choice. It's just, if you have a business, you are marketing. And if you're not marketing, you're dead. That was good.
Yeah, I think it's true, right? And I think if you choose to go into business, you choose to be in marketing. Is a quote I've taken from someone. The other one is, your business is a marketing business that just happens to sell something else. I think back to our sort of chicken and egg question, which comes first. I've tossed this around a lot because in some ways you need some cash to do marketing. So if you're saying the first thing I do with a new business is start SEO and that costs $200 a month or whatever that is, you need to have some cash to do that. But if we get a bit more nuanced, I think the real answer is you start with marketing somehow. You're pitching that idea, you're selling somebody on that idea, which is your marketing. And I think, ideally, I think if you're starting a full-time business, you need some money to start. A lot of people are like, oh, I started my business with no money. And then you hear later, they're like, well, I had a budget of $3,000. And it's like, well, that's not zero money, right? They started with something, and usually those first resources go to some kind of marketing activity, or your resources could be your time. If we go to the classic lawn cutting business, you don't even need a lawnmower to start a lawn cutting business. You could go door knocking and get people to pay you to cut their lawn, sort of give them a discount to pay you up front, collect enough to go buy a lawnmower and go buy that lawnmower. So you started with marketing.
I always think it's weird when people, and I hear it a lot, they say they're uncomfortable marketing themselves, or they're uncomfortable putting themselves out there, which is probably the more appropriate term. And at first I was like, yeah, I get it. Now I don't get it. You are in the wrong business, meaning you're in business, get out the way. You need to be marketing yourself. You need to be putting yourself out there. If you're not doing that, you're toast.
Yeah. And I think what to link it to, story brand and messaging, Donald Miller talks about before you get a business card, before you put any money into a logo, like his approach is getting your messaging right. And when you're doing that, you're not putting yourself out there. I think, again, people hesitate to do marketing, or they think, oh, it's advertising. Last week, a friend of mine, his family's had a business for like 60 years. They're like, oh yeah, we don't do any advertising because all of our, everything we get is word of mouth. And I was thinking like, well, that's doesn't make any sense. Like, you're still doing some marketing. Like, even if everything's word of mouth, you still have a message you're saying to those people, or you're still delivering a product that makes people talk about you to the right friends. So you're still doing some marketing. Maybe you're not paying for print advertising in a paper that nobody reads and your target doesn't really care about, but you're still doing some marketing. So the first question we want to ask is which comes first. And I think it has to be marketing. Even you talked about, oh, maybe you hire some employees, but even to hire those employees, you need to market that you're hiring. You need to identify those people. You need to invite them along on the mission. Like no one's just going to randomly start working for a person and not know what the job is or have any belief at all in what they're doing.
It's funny how people will be so proud in the fact that they don't do any marketing, but then, like you said, they don't realize what marketing is in so many ways. It's customer service, it's that word of mouth referral business, the things that you do in the store or online or whatever that people like, and that is part of marketing. And you're telling people that you're good because of it. It's always just fascinating to me. Even like staff, like I just talked about, like if you're hiring people, that's a part of your marketing. You need to make sure that those people are going to be on brand or going to fit your, I don't like saying culture, but like fitting the
Oh, it
environment,
is.
right? Making sure they're a good representation of you. Otherwise, like that's marketing. Otherwise, you just hire whoever you wanted, and right, and then see how that kind of works out. If they're not like fitting what you want in like a certain mold or your environment, right?
Yeah, and fit is the magic word for everything, I think, and having, a business and people who fit that business, delivering products that fit that business, having operating systems that fit the business that you want. So you're when you own a business, you're creating sort of whatever it is that you want, and you need those things to fit. And this brings me right to cash flow, which is that relationship between cash flow and marketing. And marketing should be fueling your cash flow, and then your cash flow should fuel your marketing. So it's a back and forth relationship that becomes a cycle. And when things don't fit, so when you have the wrong staff or the wrong products or you're not communicating certain things, then you're not, firing on all cylinders, and you're not. That's usually where the problems are, right? Is you're not selling as much or you're not delivering efficiently enough. So when those things fit nicer, it's a cleaner relationship between, hey, if I invest in this good marketing, I'm going to get this good business from that's going to make me profitable and
Mm-hmm.
allow me to spend more on marketing and get better and better at my marketing. When I look at my friend's business where, oh, they haven't done any marketing, I'm sure with some good marketing, they could target in on who their best, most profitable customers are and probably do more work for those people and make more profit.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask something I think has maybe been on my mind for years now, and I've never really thought how to ask it or have the conversation. But how do we explain these businesses that have been around for 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, 60 years that have never done advertising and marketing that are still, I don't even want to say around, but successful? Do we not know the definition of successful, or like how do we explain it then?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the reality is they've done some sort of marketing. Usually they might be a name on their truck. People
Right.
know who they are. It's usually people who build stuff for the most part, or they do something for someone. And there's a general demand in the market for that. So, almost every person who I hear bragging about that is like a custom home builder, or they do renovations, or they're doing something where people are like hunting down and asking around, hey, do you know anyone who builds a deck? Do you know anyone who will do this? And they find you. So, and they usually have, name on the truck. They probably in the old days would be in the phone book. So they're just not paying regular money for advertising, and they think that they're not doing marketing. I think some of these businesses could benefit greatly by a decent website with some good language that might make it easier for people to find them, make it easier to screen out the people they don't want. They could be pretty bold with it, like, "Hey, I only build, $50,000 luxury decks. So if you want a $200 step out of your house, sorry, like that's someone else." So you could curate that a little bit and focus a little bit more. Um, but I think a lot of times it's people have gone by with other types of marketing that they just don't recognize as marketing. The other, if we look at our 4 P's of marketing: product, place, price, position. The product, if you're doing good work, that's also marketing, right? Someone walks into a house, you're like, man, this is the nicest bathroom ever. Who built that? And they say who did it. Like, that's marketing.
Yeah. I guess to answer my own question, it's about being busy, and we probably can always be busier with clients and accounts and getting more money, right? But then the other thing is, like you just said, and to use your custom home and contractor example, I've actually worked with a lot. I've worked with like a dozen contractors and like a small handful of custom home builders. Their problem always, when I have that conversation with them, is like, yeah, we're busy, but like you just said, like someone wants me to go build a step. I build luxury multi-level decks with gazebos and patio slabs and all this stuff. Or these custom home builders that want to build like custom cottages in the Muskokas or wherever, and they're getting calls about a like 20 square foot bathroom in an existing house. They want different, better clients, right? And I think that's the biggest difference with marketing. It's like specifically, now let's tie it back to messaging and story brand framework, which is like we need to tell people exactly what we do and why we do it and how we do it, instead of people having to guess. So like we get on a website and we're humans and we make assumptions about things. We're like, well, this company does custom homes. I bet you they're more than willing to replace my toilet. Well, that
Yeah.
might not be the case. And we have to tell people that.
Yeah, you want to tell people that, and this is again where it feeds the cash flow, right? Because all of these things disrupt your cash flow in some way. So if you're getting, 30 calls a day, and then you're frustrated because you're like, oh, these people keep calling me, like, how do they know that I don't do small renovations without ever even trying to tell them that, right? That's taking up your time and having to deal with those, or you're just ignoring some people, which sometimes you just have to do as a business owner. They will ignore people who they can tell aren't sort of in their profit zone. But if you spend a little bit of targeted money, you can increase your just the profit from that, and you're getting more of the cash that you like. You're doing the types of jobs that you want, and we're straying into builders a little bit, but I think it works for every single business. Like you start with marketing to get some cash in the door, but then you have to take some of that cash, reinvested in marketing, and you're always trying to find that sort of optimum formula that's going to grow and get you more cash.
Yeah, and it is every business. It was my business when I started, where when I was the only person generating revenue into my home for our mortgage and my 2 kids and all this kind of stuff, and I needed money, and I needed money fast. And I would literally take anything that was even somewhat related to business when I first started. I had a friend of mine that has another marketing business, and he would literally pay me a few $100s a month. It was a lot to just do cold calls for him. He would give me a list, and I would just go through and call these people. I didn't have to do anything other than like, hey, set up a meeting, or I'm going to introduce you to the guy's name. Like, that's all I had to do. And I remember just literally taking anything and at any price point and trying to make it work, always bending over backwards, doing scopes of work that like it just didn't make sense for me, any sort of budget. And now when I get calls like that are kind of nonsense or something that's not in line with what I want to do, I'm just mad at myself. I'm not mad at those people. I'm not mad at anyone other than myself and my marketing, because I'm not being as clear as humanly possible about the type of situation that I want to get into and how I can
Yeah.
help these people. I understand now. I'm pretty comfortable that like I am the guide with the plan, and people are starting to see that locally, where they're like, okay, call Matt. He'll be able to push you in the right direction. But I now know any sort of lead that comes in from my website, if it's not in line with what I want, that's entirely my fault from a marketing perspective
Yeah.
and a messaging perspective.
Yeah, and it's funny. You're still going to get some people who don't read and look, and they don't necessarily know. And the good news is they kind of know who you are. They've heard about you, and they're just shortcutting to, um, you know, submitting that form or whatever that is. And that stuff's going to happen a little bit, but it's the effort to try to um, like really refine what you're doing. And if we look at you, talking about taking anything when you start, and that happens with most business, but the only way you got out of that is through marketing. It's because more people know who you are.
Yes.
And then you're barely into it, right? Like it takes a good 3 years for people to even really know who you are. And then things start growing better and you can start refining. So like as you keep redoing some of your marketing, being patient with it, making little adjustments, you can get clearer and clearer. But you can't do that until you start some marketing or have some good marketing language to help people understand that.
And like having proper processes and business systems to understand that if you are patient and people come to you, you know how to work these situations. I think it would be different if you didn't know what you were doing and then someone reaches out for something that makes no sense, but you take it and then you realize this isn't going to work. This isn't what I want. The price point's all funky. Like you need a bit of experience to know that these things are going to work, and being patient with and being able to say no to certain situations is going to work out in the end, right?
Yeah, I think another maybe episode about that patience. And I know I have to do that myself often. And even recently, I've had some projects come up, and it's only from being patient and not doing other things that I even had the ability to do those projects sort of as fast as I'd like. And they just kind of came up, but they didn't really just randomly show up like it was marketing and other activities. But just having patience that's just how things happen sometime. And you just have to sort of continue your activity of sort of being out there and open and waiting for some of that stuff. But you need the marketing and the clear messaging to be able to clearly say what it is you're going to do. So when that person comes up, again, where the cash flow comes is it allows them to really understand what you're going to do and why they should pay for it. And it's fast. So, that situation was one where within a 20-minute call, I had an invoice paid. But that is one where it took a lot of marketing efforts and clarity to get there so that you knew what to do. So without sort of investing in some marketing, you couldn't do that. That's the same again with any business. When you spend money to define who you are, what you do, who that market is, when they see it, they're going to want it fast. And you're going to be like, oh, this seems almost too easy, but that's how it's supposed to work. And then you are able to make a profitable margin on that. So that's just part of that cycle of, why you need to be investing in marketing the whole time in your business.
It's like the other day when I told you that I sent a invoice or a quote over to a woman, and 2 minutes later she replied, "Yeah, I want to proceed with this." And I said to you, I was like, "Oh, I made a critical error. That was way too fast. I think I messed this up." And you were like, "Well, no, like you know what you're doing. You're the guide with the plan. Like you have processes, you have systems. This is how it's supposed to work. Don't be afraid of it working the way it should."
Yeah, and there's times where the advice could be, well, time to raise your prices, but if if the pricing's fine and on market, then maybe you don't need to do that yet. When you have 10 of those people, then you might play around with, increasing those margins a bit, but you're still probably going to get them because you're proven to be that guide with the plan who can get it done and deliver. And that's another sort of core of any business is you have to be able to actually deliver that value. And if you have a good business, you can't be afraid to, put yourself out there because, as they say in StoryBrand, if you have a solution to a problem, you have an obligation to tell people about that.
Nice.
So if people have that problem and you can help them, like you have to tell them about it. You can't make them guess, hey, this guy on the street can solve this problem that I have. Should I go up to them and give them some money and see if they can do that? Like that makes no sense at all. Like you have to have that marketing. And I guess, one of my other thoughts and things we hear a lot about, marketing doesn't work. Usually that's just a misalignment or not fitting your message or like where you're putting that message. So it's not that marketing doesn't work. It's maybe you have the wrong marketing strategy. You might have the wrong message. That stuff could be broken and not returning on the cash flow that you want. But that's a fixable problem. You can get a different marketer. You could try different things. That's the type of thing you can sort of work on because good marketing should work. And there should be a direct link over time between your messaging and your cash flow.
Yeah, I feel like I talk about this like crazy, but marketing works. It's most people. I want to say maybe close to 90% of businesses, they don't have strategies. They don't have any sort of plan. They're like, well, I want to do social media. I'm going to go find someone that does social media and hopefully they know what they're doing or hopefully they're going to listen to what I tell them to do.
Yeah.
And they might not even need social media. They don't even know what they're using social media for. And that's the biggest issue with all of this. It's like, it's not that marketing doesn't work. It's you don't have a plan and a strategy.
Yeah, you need a plan and a strategy and a budget that fits what you want as well. And those are tough things to navigate when you don't really know the market very much. So you need a guide, you need someone who can direct you with that and understands that it's going to be a little bit different for your business. So, you can't listen to your friend who has a different type of business and they might say, hey, like, printing flyers in the newspapers worked great for us.
Ugh.
But that might not be what's right for your business. So you need to, figure out what that is and monitor it and have that plan. And it should over time. And I always say over time, because I think some people want an immediate return on their investment. They're like, hey, I paid $200 in SEO this month. Where's my $600, please? Like sometimes those things take a while. And then then you don't recognize that investment's paying off. So you sending a proposal and getting an acceptance in 2 minutes might be linked to, the day you started doing some SEO first, like that could have maybe contributed to that. I don't know if it directly did or not, but, those are the things that put you in the position to be able to today or in the future, get those good deals and those good quick transactions.
If you want to call it like one click ROI, which is basically what people want and are asking for and are demanding and are impatient about, it doesn't exist. I'm now going to get all fired up. I don't know why people think it exists. I will challenge any single person to tell me a time that something has come into their head and they have purchased it immediately. It's not true. It won't happen. Whether that's online or in person, it just is not a thing that happens. And why we expect that from digital marketing, I have no idea. Right? Yeah. Like I used to throw out this stat, and I still do, because I had a presentation from Google 100,000 years ago and told me that people interact with your brand 12 times before they reach out to you. I saw another one recently. I think it was from Google. I can't remember who, but it was more around like 5 or 6 times before they purchase from you. All that reiterates. It doesn't matter if it's 5, 6, 10, 12. It's all about you need to have clear messaging And it's not going to happen on that first interaction whatsoever. So stop thinking about that. We cannot start even imagining that that's something we can achieve. Forget it, right?
Awesome. I like it. But I think, what we've pointed out today is that, marketing comes first. It might not mean what you think it means. And there's a relationship between marketing and cash flow, and they circle back and forth. They cycle. You got to make adjustments all along the way, and it's not easy. There's no perfect way to do it. If there was, I would do it and make all the money and not tell you about it.
That's not true because you are a student of Donald Miller and StoryBrand, and you just said that if you have a solution to a problem, you are obligated to tell people about it. You would tell people about it.
Maybe, although that perfect one, I have lots of solutions that I'll tell you about. But we don't think that perfect one exists. So, but hey, if it does, maybe I'll tell you, but maybe not. So, all right. Any final thoughts?
I hate saying no, but I do believe that everyone is in business to do marketing. And if you are not prepared to put yourself out there, you should not be in business. Was that too harsh? Was that a harsh takeaway?
No, I think it's true, and I think it's sometimes we need reality checks, especially I think if you own a business or you want to be sort of the pilot of your own plane and your own business. Like sometimes you need those reality checks like that, and I think that's this is a whole other podcast, but it's ones that you have, or if you ever find yourself mad that people don't understand what you do, like you just have to deal with it and need those reality checks. So, as Matt says, you should not be in business. I feel like that's the pull quote for this. With that being said, we do want to help you. Maybe you need a recharge. Maybe you're just ready to grow your business with some good marketing, or maybe you want to start. We'd love to help you out. You can check us out at kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca, or just skip all that and send us an email to set it up at kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca.